Welcome to Circle of Hearts Radio. Journey with Grandmother Allayah as she enters her magical world of relics, sacred sites, and ancient crystal skulls. Meet with exciting trailblazer authors and individuals shifting the consciousness of humanity. Send her your questions to be answered on air on her monthly segment, Ask the Oracle. And now your host, Grandmother Allayah, in the sanctuary on the airwaves on OMTimes Radio.
Welcome to Circle of Hearts. I am Allayah, your host for this hour. Today we get to have an interesting look or different perception into the male mind. Today we have with us Jim Starr, author of Jersey Yogi, The Unintentional Enlightenment of Uptight Man. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Allayah. It's great to be here.
Okay. Now, as I talked to you in pre-show, I'm really excited about, you bringing out this book because not many people have a chance to get into the male mind, a regular guy's mind, especially in this new age type of ascension process we're going through. There's a lot of skeptics, and you wrote this really compassionate version of your journey. Now, what is a Jersey Yogi?
All right, well, maybe I'll give you the short versions to start. I would say that a Jersey Yogi is a yogi with a lot of rough edges, which certainly describes me.
Uh-huh.
The Jersey part is the roughness. It's a stereotype of Jersey, but it's not completely without some truth to it. The rough edges can, I could be coarse, abrasive, and sometimes even raunchy, and yet
you have a great sense of humor in your book. You're constantly saying, you get the feel when you read it, go, why am I doing this?
That's right.
It's not that you're laughing at yourself, it's just you're constantly questioning yourself.
That's right. I was so far away from being interested in New Age spiritual things that when I started to get into them, I was always questioning myself, what am I doing? Is this me doing this? It was so out of character that I was questioning, and sometimes still do. Because I am, by nature, I have a lot of Jersey in me. Lived for 50 years in New Jersey, and there's a lot of skeptic in me, and there's a lot of judgments, and there's a lot of crudeness. And so when I still sometimes look at myself and say, wow, how can I be into these New Age healing arts and meditations and even gurus?
Well, I was going to say that's really true. I'm from New Jersey also. I think that's what really caught my eye when I saw the name of the book and saw your background, because actually we kind of crossed certain areas in our lives. We'd never met, but, we're around from the same area and, same familiar with certain schools and stuff. And New Jersey is not, I often wondered myself, what am I doing in Jersey? Everybody's out in Sedona.
Yeah.
Mount Shasta, or like you're in Colorado now. Like nothing happens in Jersey. So we're not a spiritual enlightenment center. So I can see what you mean with the word Jersey. It's a definite. It's skepticism that you had to break through. It was your spiritual nature breaking through, it seems.
I think so, yes.
It says in your story, you describe how a sports injury basically started this whole thing. Can you, share some of that with us?
Absolutely. I play a game that I've been playing all my life. I learned it in New Jersey called handball, which these days many people don't know what it is, but let's say it's similar to racquetball. Anyway, I still play handball, but in those days I was extremely competitive, and I was in the New Jersey State Championship tournament, and I blew out my back playing a match.
Oh, that's so good.
It turned out actually to be good, but it wasn't good to begin with.
Mm.
So being a skeptic and a very, very conventional person, I certainly did not go to a New Age healer to have my back looked at. I went to a regular medical doctor, and then to an orthopedic medical doctor, and he didn't have much to offer me except the possibility of surgery or some exercises which he gave me to do. And he wasn't pushing the surgery, so I just did the exercises, and they really didn't do much for me. So I was left with what I felt like were no options. I just have to live with back pain. It was extreme.
Mm.
I got back into my life with it, but I had this back pain and this pain down the back of my leg, which I know is called sciatica.
Right.
And I was just resigned to this kind of life. But my wife saw me getting older, like prematurely, with this pain, and she ultimately, for some reason, came across an article in Runner's World magazine, because she was something of a runner, and it was about this New Age healing technique called Rolfing,
Okay.
named after Ida Rolf. And I don't want to get into trying to explain it, but let's just say it's akin to a deep tissue massage technique.
Mm-hmm.
She showed me the article, and I just laughed at it. What are you showing me this for? I'm never going to try something like that. But she was very persistent, and
Well, it's good that you listened to your wife.
well, it turns out to be very good. Yeah, she kind of dragged me to a Rolfing lecture demo in New York City, so I could just see for myself what it was. And I just didn't want to go, but she insisted. So I went there expecting to find all the New Age kinds of people that I had extreme distaste for. But there was one of the practitioners who was giving the demonstration and the presentation, who looked kind of like a jock to me, and I could relate to him because he looked athletic, and I was kind of like, oh, maybe this isn't all that terrible, but I didn't really want to go in and try Rolfing. But after a couple of weeks, I said, well, what are my choices? What are my options? So I went in and I told him, I called him up and I told him I would try one session. And the result of that session was so unbelievably good that I had to admit that Rolfing worked. And then I looked at myself and said, what about all these other things that I said couldn't possibly work, or, they had no merit, no validity, all these New Age healing things. And I said, wow, my mind's been pretty closed, maybe I ought to start opening it up, because this really weird thing called Rolfing works.
Yeah, it seemed like you were being shown people. I mean, first your wife kind of pointed you the way, and then you met the next person. It just seems like you kept on moving forward. So in your journey. So when you say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears, would you say that was in your case? It's like you open your mind a little bit, and all of a sudden all these doors start opening for you, or?
I would say yes, except that I almost feel like my mind was forced open by the injury, and like I was kicking and screaming the whole way. The typical story of when the student is ready, the guru appears, it's usually that the student is hunting around for his or her guru, looking all over the place and getting turned down and looking at this guru and that guru, and nobody's filling the bill till finally he's ready and the guru is there. But for me, I wasn't looking at all. And the guru just presented himself to me virtually against my will. I mean, there's a lot more to the story. After the Rolfing, I decided, and I had 10 sessions of Rolfing, which is the standard course of treatment. I decided I wanted to quit my job and become a Rolfer. I wanted to give back. I wanted to do what this person was doing for me. I wanted to give that to other people.
That was very different than your other personality from what I read in the book. I mean, not that you didn't give back. I mean, just such spontaneous, okay, I'm going to do a 360 now.
That's right. I mean, all of a sudden I became completely spontaneous, and I didn't care what was in the way. And, I lived in Jersey. I had a family and a mortgage and bills to pay, and I had a very, very good, responsible job as a computer programmer. And I wound up just quitting the job to pursue the Rolfing training.
Wow.
And step by step by step, I was ultimately led to a spiritual teacher that changed my life radically. And he became my guru.
Yeah, I know we're going to be heading into a break soon, so, we'll follow up on that thought after the break. But you haven't regretted any of these decisions, have you?
No, I certainly haven't. Every time I take a risk in a good cause, whether the risk pans out or not, I feel like I did the right thing.
No, that's great. Okay, we'll continue with this after the break.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids. Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com.
Radio Namaste leads you down the yellow brick road into portals of consciousness with the blue collar goddess as your host. Interviews with humans who could be famous or just popular, and answers to everything are on the agenda. Tune into OMTimes Radio and drop in on Thursdays at 3 Eastern. It's a different brand of enlightenment.
Join Elliot Jollish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jollish Hour, as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jollish Hour. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Well, we're back with Jim Starr, the author of the book, Jersey Yogi. Jim, what was the name of your other book that you wrote before this one?
Oh, that was a book called Gungo Tree, Journey to the Source.
We had talked a little bit on pre-show. I had noticed I came across a portion of it where you mentioned spiritual discipline. Now, why I bring that up is for all the men out there we were talking about, is it part of the male pattern thinking of being very structured and very looking for a discipline or a path to follow or something that's very structured, and for you it's very disciplined, whether it was the massage therapy or what we're going to go into about your life in an ashram?
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, it's kind of stereotyping the male and the female roles, but certainly I would think that the male stereotype is much more disciplined than the female energy, which seems to be looser and more nurturing and less concerned with rigid boundaries.
Yeah, well, I only brought that up. Yeah, I know people are getting out of labels, but it's sort of like a foundational point, to so someone, is we're all ultimately, moving toward one. All paths move to one. But let's say a man in the business world is looking for answers. His type of thinking may align with yours, and then it's good to find out that it's okay to burst open and be different.
Yeah, that was very hard for me, given how uptight and rigid I was. I mean, it's like a real New Jersey character kind of guy. Like when I started to open up to this new stuff, it was very hard to break out of that stereotype because it didn't look like me anymore. It didn't look male, and I started to look like what I felt I looked like was wimpy. And I had all these New Jersey friends who were friends over, a glass of beer and in a barbecue and telling dirty jokes and stuff like that. And it was really hard for me as a man to start softening and going in a different direction because I was very scared of being rejected by my male tribe.
Yeah, and that's a good point to, that wanted to bring out that this book, when, if a man will pick it up and see, oh, okay, well, he went through this, so it's, they can relate because I think everybody, it's hard when you do something different and everybody that knows you starts to look at you differently.
That's right. That was very hard for me. It took just a lot of motivation to go through that, and I actually, lost a lot of my old buddies because we didn't relate. We didn't have the same kinds of things to relate to anymore. But on the other hand, I picked up such wonderful new circle of relationships that it all, it evened out.
Well, yeah, so moving into your massage therapy training. Now, again, in a way, that's a very, out of all the massage training that I'm familiar with, I think the deep body massage is very disciplined too.
Oh yes, it is. Though it allows for differentiation. Like a person who's doing something like rolfing or massage generally doesn't have like strict rules and regulations. You can go with the flow with the person. Depends how the person's energy is flowing during the session. So there's some leeway there, but in particular in rolfing, there's a lot of structure to it, and in fact the work is about the structure of the human body and getting that structure to be aligned and straight in the field of gravity, so that the force of gravity becomes a healing energy rather than a destructive one.
So this step that you took in this massage therapy, learning and becoming one, it seems like it was a precursor or a good step to take before your natural. I'm trying to guess. How did you gravitate towards your next spiritual journey of the the journey of the ashram? Let's put it that way.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm studying Rolfing, so why does it, how does that relate to an ashram? It's a very good question. Well, as a prerequisite to Rolfing training, I had to do, of course, an actual massage therapy itself, which is like the first step. It's a prerequisite to getting the training of a Rolfer. So the Rolf Institute, which is in Boulder, Colorado, recommended that I go to a massage school that they approved of, which was a very short list, and the one that I could go to and take the least amount of time away from home was out in Oakland, California. So I decided I'd go there. I called up the guy from my office, from my computer programming office. I called up the owner of the school and asked him when was the next class that I could go to there. He said, well, the next course is like November, and that was like so far away, I didn't want to wait that long. He said, unless you want to come to the one that starts tomorrow.
Oh, gee.
And I said, I'll be there.
Oh, my goodness.
And then I asked him, first of all, that was like a huge risk to take, walk out on my job, like with no notice whatsoever, and then get on a plane and go. Anyway, I asked the owner of the school, where's a good hotel to stay in the area? And he said, well, there are no hotels at all in the area, but if you don't mind that kind of thing, there's this ashram that you can spend your time, you can live in. And it happened to be my guru's ashram. And you can stay there for $9 a night, and they'll give you 3 meals. So I had no place to go. I had no place to stay. So I didn't even know what an ashram was. But I gritted my teeth and packed my bag and wound up spending 6 weeks of the massage training in an ashram in Oakland, California.
It really is. It seems like you said, you were kicked. The spiritual journey you were thrown into, and you fought it every step of the way. But then once you got in alignment with you doing something different in your life, I mean, nothing stopped you.
That's a very astute observation, because I actually felt completely unstoppable during that time. I was motivated, I guess, just by grace to keep going, and I had to keep making these very difficult choices, and I was not to be denied. I kept doing it. So I was. Not knowing the first thing about an ashram, and there I was living in one. And
again, that's a very disciplined way of living, which follows your pattern. I mean, you gave up so much, and you changed yourself that you just followed your heart, but you always follow. Not always, but you seem to follow or get into very disciplined, structured paths.
Yeah, that's kind of my MO. But the ashram definitely offered a very structured lifestyle, because like most ashrams, is a very rigid schedule. 4:00 you get up, and 4:30 you meditate for an hour, and then you do this chant or whatever, and that plays right into my own, organizing stuff and my own rigid nature. But doing the practices in the ashram, which I decided I'd give them a try, just opened my heart to some of the chanting and just hanging out there. And the energy was something I had never experienced before. And I started opening up emotionally, which was not a very disciplined thing to do. But I wound up crying and feeling things that I had never felt before. And crying was not something I had hardly ever done either. And so, in addition to the discipline, which was definitely there was this emotional and spiritual depth to it that I recognize as something I had been seeking in all those years that I didn't look like I was seeking them and didn't know I was seeking them.
I noticed in reading your book, which, I really enjoyed your words throughout the whole journey. You take the reader right along with you, through your confusion. You're like, what in the world am I doing? Let's try this. Oh, yes, this is right. This feels right. This, I'm heading toward this. And now you're entering in a journey, such a spiritual journey, that even when you're there and you're describing how the ashram was, you take the reader there with you. We all blend. It's like we're all in that room.
Yeah, thank you. I bring my skepticism along with me for the whole ride. Like I describe what I'm going through, and then I describe my Jersey side, wondering, what in the world are you doing? And I bring that with me through the whole book because I still treasure the skeptical side of myself. It still serves me very well. I just don't feel anymore like I'm run by it, and I have to dance to its music. And now I can dance to my own music and use skepticism for good.
Okay, we'll be joining you on the next segment and see how deep we go into this.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Imagine magnificence. Do you live to your unlimited potential? Join me, Margaret Ann Lembo. Awaken your consciousness. Listen to Money Magnet Moment, Gem Spot Affirmations, Essential Aromatics, and Looking Skyward Astrocast, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
We're back with Jim Starr. And Jim, before we get you back to the States and everything, let's go into a little bit of your life in the ashram in India. I mean that's that kind of covers a large area. I'm not. I, when you went there, that was a total change of lifestyle for you, and it seemed like by your book, you have many things that you faced in yourself, but you totally merged. It's like you became one. Like you totally belong there.
India, I had and I have a strong connection with India. When I was in the Oakland ashram, I felt something that somehow felt Indian to me when I was going through some of these deep emotional and spiritual experiences there. And so when I got to India, I recognized there was something that was familiar to me, even though I had never been there before.
I remember one passage. It was toward the end, I think, before you went back to the States, where your friend had to cross this water to get to land. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
And it kind of, as the reader, it really, like I said, I get into the books. It was like that decision. What do I do? Just like the many decisions you made in life. How, what do I do? How do I do it? Do I trust myself to do it, etc.? Did you feel like that, or that's how the book appears?
Yeah, well, that story and the book itself is an adventure story, and I don't really want to give away the whole climax of the book.
Oh no, that's
but that incident that you're talking about was a life or death situation in the Himalayan mountains of India. In the place where the holy Ganges River emanates from, up in the mountains, coming out of a very large melting glacier, which forms this very, very holy river. And I was with my best friend Don, and we got into the situation that was very life-threatening. And it was... all right, well, here's what we got to do, so let's do it. It was...
Yeah, I was going to say, we won't give away that ending, but I think I just wanted to bring up the point that this book covers a whole scope of areas. That was toward the end of your journey in India, per se, for a while, before you came back to the States, I think. And... It's an important part of your journey. So, I just wanted to bring that up as like a little teaser for people to, all right, let's find out what happened.
Oh, yeah. No, that definitely is a big part of the book. Was a big part of who I am yet, that experience. And maybe we can, like to talk a little bit about finding my guru himself.
Yeah, no, please do. Like I said, there's so much to cover in the book. No, please go to that point.
Yeah, well, I was in the Oakland. I was in this ashram in Oakland, California, and this is an ashram set up and dedicated to an Indian guru named Swami Muktananda, and so basically, an ashram is, I'm sure your listeners know ashrams better than I did. An ashram is a residential place that springs up around the teachings of one teacher. So this was a Muktananda ashram in Oakland, and there was a much bigger one in my backyard at home in South Fallsburg, New York, in the Catskills.
Mm-hmm.
So after having all these heart-opening, unbelievable experiences, emotional experiences in Oakland, I was very, very anxious to meet the Swami himself, because he was in New York at the time. So I made it a point when I got when I got home from massage school, to the next day to go up and try and make his acquaintance and see what he was about in the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
That in itself there was a lot of magic in that experience, but I found out that he gave an intensive weekend experience where he would initiate people and awaken the Kundalini energy, which is, I'm sure many of your listeners know what that is too, but just to give it a quick definition, it's a conscious energy that resides in the human body, usually in inert form, and when it's awakened by a master, the energy begins its journey from the root chakra at the base of the spine to the crown chakra at the top of the head, which could take a moment or it could take 100 years. And this energy brings into the seeker's life the experiences that he or she needs in order to purify himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to take one of those intensives, and I shared this with my wife Anne, and we ultimately wound up doing an intensive together, which led to all kinds of magical stuff happening as a result of the Kundalini awakening.
One of the questions that you had given me, because in the book you talk about magic, is this what you're referring to?
It is, as a little, I've always been interested in magic from a earliest time I can remember. And an interesting little story that people like. We lived in New York City till I was 5 years old, and at the age 4, my mother bought me a wristwatch, like a little Mickey Mouse wristwatch, and taught me how to tell time, and would let me actually go out on the street in the middle of Manhattan by myself, which is unheard of,
Oh, yeah.
A 4-year-old walking around, and all I had to do was every 15 minutes come ring the doorbell. So anyway, it's kind of strange that she would do that, but I wasn't allowed to cross the street. I had to stay on the block. But I would always go to the same place. Around the corner from where we lived was a store, and it was a magic store that supplied professional magicians and amateurs with magic, equipment. And I would go. I'd ring the doorbell like I had to let my mother know I was okay, and I would always go right back to the magic store and stare there till the next 15 minutes was up, and that's all I wanted to do was look in that store. And I didn't even know what magic was at the time. But as I got older, I still liked card tricks and all kinds of magical things. But what I craved, I knew that these were all tricks, but somehow deeply I craved somebody who could do real magic. That wasn't an illusion, something that was, I guess some part of me knew that there was something deeper than the reality that appears to me every day. And I wanted to see it, and magic seemed to be the way to go about it.
Yeah, it seemed like, even in your book when you mentioned, it seemed like your guru called you, which I've heard many, many times from people on different spiritual paths, that when they do meet somebody, that they're drawn to, from the heart, that it's almost like a telepathic calling. You knew
Yes.
you knew you were going to meet this person, whether it was a soul contract or something in your life that you two were going to cross paths.
Exactly. And I wasn't going to be stopped in making his acquaintance. And so I heard about the Kundalini awakening and that the intensive that he gave facilitated this, and that the Kundalini awakening can do in one's body, can do all kinds of stuff. And that sounded like really magical to me, but I was still skeptical, very skeptical about it. I took the intensive and wound up feeling the next day, and during meditation, I felt this serpent-like energy at the base of my spine start rocking my torso back and forth, and I knew I wasn't doing it. And it really, really scared me, and it also like I broke down crying because it's what I wanted. So there was somebody who knew how to do real magic. And the real magic was real.
Yeah.
And ultimately, all kinds of very, very interesting and strange things happened to my body as a result of that Kundalini awakening. And I was just so thankful that I had found something that I had been seeking. It wasn't the magic itself; it was the grace and the depth of reality underneath what ordinary appearances.
Yeah, you found your spirit. You found
I did.
Soul, which is, I think, so many people, they read about it, they look for it, but they don't know where to go or who to ask. And you're taking a big step in writing the book, and sharing your journey is going to be very helpful to many people. So I know we're coming up to our last segment pretty soon that we'll continue on from then, but I'm glad you wrote it. All right, we'll be back with Jim Starr.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
If you remember living fearlessly, joyfully, and in a world filled with adventure, happiness, pleasure, and unbridled living, then this show is for you. Join me, Dame Nicole Brandon, as I bring you the world's top experts in wealth, creativity, flow, seat-edging technology, space, wellness, health, love, lust, and passion, all merging together each week here at the Hub of Happiness. Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Passionate Living, where you can ride on a magic carpet ride of living and learn how to lead a passionately wild, exciting, and outrageously amazing life.
Matt Connerton here. Join Jen Coffey and I twice a week for Matt Connerton Unleashed, a political talk show that's a little different than what you're used to. No liberal or conservative agenda here, just an honest dialogue about truth and how things really work in the world of politics. Matt Connerton Unleashed, every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
As we're back with Jim Starr, and as we wind down for this last segment, One of the things that you have mentioned, the more spiritual I get, the less spiritual I look. Can you expound on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, I noticed that usually the thing that I need to do to grow spiritually has to do with the Jersey side of me rather than the yogi side. Like it doesn't. In order to make progress, I need to probably take a step in my karmic world, in my karmic life, as opposed to going ahead and meditating another half hour a day or something like that. So I find I need to nurture my Jersey side and keep it in balance. Keep doing the things that are hard to do. Keep taking the risks that need to be taken, which could be as simple as communicating something to someone that I've been withholding from them. And when I do that, I don't look like a yogi. I look more just like a
normal guy.
I look like a normal guy, and I don't. But on the other hand, I'm doing what I need to do to take the next step spiritually.
I think that exemplifies what so many people are going through. It's like we don't need to dress the part. We don't need to put labels on us. You just need to be. And that's what you're doing. You're just being you, which is the ancient Chinese and many other cultures always bring heaven to earth. You know, you bring the knowledge of the stars, of the ascended masters, and you bring it down and anchor it into the planet, and you just radiate love, which is a big part of what all this ascension process is about. Now, what prompted you to write the book?
Well, this is the whole story of my transformation. I just couldn't. I would tell everybody at like a cocktail party the story. Anybody who would listen, because I was still excited. I'm still right now excited about my own the journey that's been gifted to me. And so I would tell it to anybody who would listen, tell the story. And my wife picked up and said, "Why don't you, write it down and give it to everybody instead of like collaring somebody at a party or something like that." So I thought, well, I don't know if I can do that. And I went through all my doubts about my ability and whether it would be interesting. And once I got through all my doubts, I just sat down and started to do it.
I had gone to your website, which, shortly, if you want to give it to people, I noticed some of the feedback that a lot of, some of guys are saying, yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate, which is, I think, really important in in writing what you did.
Yeah. People and people appreciate that I didn't tell the story in like proselytizing way where I'm telling you, well, here's what I did, and now you do the same. The book is just an adventure story as far as I'm concerned, and I don't preach, and I don't intend to preach to people and tell them how their path should go. But people definitely find something to relate to often in the story, in my story, and they'll latch onto it and make use of it and thank me for it.
Yeah, well, I think that's good to be putting out there, and that's why we have you here, so that people are aware. Because, like I said, a lot of people, both men and women, look, and I kid, there's the adventures, of a regular guy guy, figuring out the male mind. But even as a woman, I could relate to different parts, and I think it's good for both sexes. I'm not just limiting you to one. It is personal journeys are important. It's difficult to write your journeys, so that admire you for that.
Thank you.
Where can in our few minutes here, where can people get hold of you?
Well, they can. There's a contact place on my website if they actually want to contact me directly. But to just to see more about the book in particular, my website is jerseyyogi.com. It's pretty simple.
Okay, because I know on the media page we have your links and whatever, and you seem like you'd be very open if somebody writes you to to reply to help support them on their journey. Like you say, you never say that, oh, I'm a teacher. You're just sharing what's in your heart.
Yeah, I would think that I'll respond to pretty much anybody's comment or question. There's a comment form on the website that they can use, and unless it gets to be too much, I'm pretty committed to responding to anybody who wants to engage me.
Well, let's hope it does get to be a lot, because people need some types of direction, and sometimes just having a door open makes it easier for people. Now, one of the last questions you have, what is your message? If you were to be, out, you expressing yourself to the world, be authentic, be yourself, take a chance.
Yes, I think the role of risk taking is very in spiritual life is overlooked, and it's very important. But the risk doesn't have to look like a spiritual risk. It can, in other words, it doesn't have to be on the yogi side. It can be very much on the karmic Jersey side of the person's life. If there's something you've been resisting doing or saying to somebody, or anything at all, if you're resisting it, take the risk, do it, and that'll be as spiritual a thing as you can do in the moment. It might be something as simple as cleaning off your desk.
That's true. Or just being nice to someone in the corporate world, or I think that's important, because I think people get so orientated, to life, that they forget that, there's other people and other, what's going on around them. They don't take time for each other.
That's right. And in the middle of all of it, I guess the message that the simplest message I would have, if I have a message at all, I mean, I don't know who might have a message, but I would say that grace can find its way to anyone.
Yeah.
And it cannot be forced. You cannot force yourself to be graced. It can find it, like if it found its way to me, it can find its way to anyone, and that's a very, very beautiful, helpful thing to, especially if a person feels like they're not worthy.
Yeah, I think that statement is really true, because in reading your journey, if it can find its way to you, I mean, it seemed like as a child, from what I read, you were open, like I said, you looked for the magic, but then adulthood, you kind of closed yourself off. And then it came knocking at your door, and when you didn't listen, it decided, well, we're going to show you take time to listen, and you had your sports accident.
That's right.
So if it could,
I mean, how beautiful is that, and how tricky.
no, it's sort of a soul calling, saying, okay, time to wake up. And, in this new age world, that you hear these words, time to wake up, to see what life's about. And I really think your journey exemplifies all of this. So, for people who aren't sure, or, they're afraid to be different, I personally suggest reading Jim's book. He took a chance, and he's a happy guy. He's very authentic. And I think he gives good pointers and shows if he can do it, anybody can do it.
Exactly.
Because, like you said, spirit or soul calling comes to you in different ways and different paths. It doesn't have to be like, the yogi, but just always open your heart. So thank you, Jim, for being with us. I had a lot of fun.
You're welcome.
Okay.
And thanks for having me.
Good luck on your book, folks.